The White Album was recorded in 1968 during one of the most turbulent periods in the Beatles' history. Following the immense success of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band the previous year, the band found themselves in a creative yet volatile state. Their avant-garde album had dominated the UK record retailer chart for 27 weeks, perfectly encapsulating the spirit of the Summer of Love. However, by the time work began on their self-titled double album, later dubbed The White Album, the cracks within the group had become impossible to ignore. The recording sessions were notoriously tense, with conflicts arising frequently. Tensions reached a breaking point during the sessions for Back in the USSR, when Ringo Starr, frustrated with the growing discord, decided to walk away from the band temporarily. Paul McCartney later admitted that the stress of their impending breakup was already weighing heavily on them. John Lennon echoed this sentiment, once stating that listeners could hear the band's disintegration within the album itself. One of the most contentious tracks on the album was Revolution 9. The Beatles had released multiple versions of Lennon's song Revolution in 1968, each reflecting different takes on social and political unrest. However, Revolution 9 took a completely experimental approach, transforming into a chaotic sound collage that divided both the band and their fans. Lennon, along with Yoko Ono and George Harrison, envisioned the track as an abstract representation of revolution, an unconscious manifestation of his expectations for what an uprising might look like. The song was built almost entirely from loops, a technique Lennon described in detail. He recalled layering about 30 different loops, then using classical recordings that he would cut, reverse, and manipulate to create eerie sound effects. One particular phrase, number 9, was sampled from an EMI test tape. Lennon later remarked that he had not initially noticed the repeated phrase's significance, but found it amusing, especially given that 9 was his lucky number and the day of his birth. The track evolved from an extended take of Revolution, first recorded on May 30th, 1968. Through overdubs and extensive studio experimentation, Lennon decided to separate the avant-garde section from the main song and develop it into a standalone piece. By June 25th, after adding layers of tape loops and sound effects, he finalized the 8-minute and 22-second experimental composition. He later reflected on the process, stating that he had spent more time on Revolution 9 than on many of the other songs he had written. McCartney, however, was not involved in the track's creation, as he was abroad at the time. When he returned and heard it, he was unimpressed. According to sound engineer Jeff Emmerich, McCartney did not consider it Beatles music and strongly disagreed with the direction it represented. He urged Lennon to leave it off the album, believing it was an unnecessary departure from their signature sound. Despite McCartney's objections, Lennon and Ono added the final touches, ensuring Revolution 9 remained on the White Album. In this particular battle of creative vision, Lennon ultimately won. The track went on to become one of the Beatles' most divisive pieces, either hailed as a groundbreaking experiment or dismissed as an indulgent misstep.